All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to open the Wakefield Conservation Commission meeting for September 6th. We will take roll call. And let's see. Ken,
Here.
Paul,
Yes.
Peter,
Here.
Silvana,
Here.
Teresa,
Yes.
Jimmy.
Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ken, I called you, right?
You did.
Still here, Ken?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still good. I'm hanging
I
on.
got scratched off from last time because he was on vacation that time. All right, so there are no public hearings. First up is the approval of the minutes from August 25th. I did see a correction that Paul had put into Judy. Any other questions, comments, corrections? And if not, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the minutes from August 25th with the correction that Paul had submitted?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Peter,
You're on
Peter,
mute,
you're muted.
Peter.
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Silvana,
I need to abstain. I was absent.
okay, Teresa,
Same here. I was on.
yeah, Jimmy.
Yeah, here.
Okay, I also
Yeah.
vote yes. Let's go to Millbrook Estates first, DEP 31322. This was the stormwater management update. I guess the applicant is here.
The adjacent homeowner.
Okay.
So I'll just give you guys a little rundown on what's going on. Basically, as you know, the condos were constructed ages ago. I was notified maybe earlier this year about some potential problems with the detention basins, the stormwater management system there. When I look back in the file, there was no certificate of compliance or as-built that had been submitted, so we started with that information. I had requested that they supply some maintenance logs so we could figure out what's going on with some of the basins. They have a newer property manager and who was unfamiliar with the management requirements for a stormwater management system. They were having some difficulties locating any documents that they could potentially have that would give them this information. They didn't seem to be able to put their fingers on any. I have spoken to their attorney a number of times, which today was the most recent. And where we stand now is that they have asked Hayes Engineering, since they were the original engineers on this, if they could start preparing the as-built plan, at which time, as required in the certificate of compliance, of course, they will compare what was proposed and what was actually constructed, and we can see if there's any differences that we need to address. They are also trying to locate the drainage report, which would have the maintenance plan in it. I looked again next door. I have some information. I'm just struggling to get my hands on that. When Hayes Engineering prepares their as-built plan, as they were the engineering company who submitted the notice of intent, I'm hoping that they will be able to put their hands on that drainage report. At a minimum, if not, then perhaps, from what I understand from the attorney, Peter Ogren is going to be taking this under his wing. He was the original, I believe, engineer on this job. So I think that he would probably, if we can't locate that exact document, I would hope that he would have some suggestions of how this management should go. One, if not the biggest issue, is there are two basins. One's in the front as you turn into the condo building, and there's actually, I think there are three on either side of the road, but particularly when you pull in on the left side as you're pulling in. There is one in the back. I haven't even started to look at that. I've been waiting for the as-built plan to come back. But moving to the one in the front, it is incredibly overgrown with vegetation. The neighbors that live next door, when they did the basin, they've shown me some pictures. It was basically a grass lot or building lot. They dug it out, they created the stormwater basin, and then at that time, filled up with water, and there was grass, and then there was a chain link fence that separated the basin from the adjacent homeowners. You can't even see that fence anymore. It is so covered in vegetation. It is completely overgrown. I don't think they've ever done anything to that basin. There's literally trees growing out of it. I took some photos today. I sent them to the condo association's attorney. I spoke with him on the phone and said, while we are trying to sort some of this out, because we've been talking about this since November, could they at a minimum just get the landscaping company to go in there and pull all the vegetation off of that fence? And I can share a picture with you guys if you want to see it. And so he agreed to do that. He said that he was going to, as soon as he received the pictures from me, which he did this morning, he was going to contact the property manager, ask them to, at a minimum, go clear that out for the homeowners, which it's incredible. It looks like a jungle. And then what we're hoping for is by the next meeting, which is on the 20th, the attorney is planning on attending the Zoom at this point. Whether or not the property manager comes, we don't know. And we're hoping to have a much more detailed plan in place as to how we're going to move forward. And that's basically all I have for you. I can, like I said, I can forward you, Bob, a picture if you guys want to see it. The
You sent
homeowner.
us an email earlier.
So the ones I sent you last week were the ones that I received from the attorney. They were showing the landscaping company had cleaned out the outlet of the pipe. So, but the problem is, I see a couple problems, but the major problem is that the basin fills up with water. It, at one point was probably filled with cattails, and they never really did anything with that. And then I think, if I had to guess, and we'll figure this out, but looks like probably that stuff, the cattails would die back, and then they would leave all the detritus on the ground. And then although it's organic material, it's going to start to accumulate. And there's a possibility they've lost volume in there in those basins. I don't know. We won't know that till we get the as-built plan. But regardless, I don't know why it would have ever been designed this way. I'm not sure it was designed this way. But regardless, they mow to keep that vegetation contained in the basin. They mow along the street, they mow along their driveway, and they mow in the back, but they don't come down that other side. So it's like 20 years of out of control jungle. Why don't I get a picture and I'll send it to you, Bob? In the meantime, Mr. Gallagher is here. If he has any comments, he is the homeowner next door. Maybe his parents are. Let me pull that up real quick.
It's my grandparents' property. I think you pretty much hit every nail on the head.
Oh, sorry.
Are you sharing it, Rebecca, or sending it to me?
I sent it to you.
Oh,
I could share it. No, I can't share it because this is my home computer and it's on the laptop. Sorry, I have to do two here. Anyway, I'm really hoping that they get someone out there, as you'll see in just a sec. I suppose while we're waiting, any questions?
Looking at the aerial, Rebecca,
Mhm.
I'm just trying to figure out where is that retention basin in relation to the aerial?
Okay, so let's get back to that in one sec.
Yeah,
But
this is okay.
look, and I kind of crept under a little bit. If you zoom in to that picture a little bit, under there, you can see a tiny bit of a green chain link fence. Do you see it?
yeah.
That's the property
Hold on.
line on the other side is the
That's your
basin.
post right there.
And that's the
Wow.
spot where you can see the fence. So I did send you another one, Bob,
Okay.
and
Looks
then
like there's a mat or fabric mat or
They-
Yeah, it
something.
looks like landscape fabric or something.
Yeah, right here. I see.
that's probably the only reason why that you can see anything in that small spot. is
Yeah,
that is there.
we put that down several years ago,
Yeah.
just to try and help manage all of the vegetation that comes through. And at one point, there was about an inch worth of that rock on top of it. But over the years, because that, right where that fence is, about an inch or two after it, it just drops right down into the pond. So over the years, rock is just either blown in there from the high winds or rain is washing away.
So yeah, Bob, there's a fence in there somewhere.
Must be
Yep.
right
Try to
here.
peek in there somewhere.
Was there any order of conditions to keep that area clean when they did the development or when it finished? Was there any kind of conditions?
So that's what we're trying to figure out. So it wasn't a condition as we would think of it today. It was number 23 says you must do such and such.
Yeah.
And we do that now, but this is pretty old. But what was done was they have a drainage report. And typically when you have your stormwater management, it includes long-term maintenance. The stormwater report is typically, and I will double check what I believe is referenced in the order of conditions, usually as a document. So we have to find that document to go back to see what the maintenance should have been. To be honest with you, regardless of whether or not we can narrow that down, I do think this needs to be addressed. It's pretty excessive.
Absolutely.
I have another picture, Bob. Did you get number 3?
Is there any way to fine? Can you impose and fine or no? Can't?
Not yet, and I don't think that we need to. I think that what needs to happen is they need to temporarily give these guys some relief and get some of that stuff out of there. And then over the next 2 weeks, we're gonna try to get our hands on greater engineering information. And then where I foresee this is coming, if one doesn't exist, the long-term management plan doesn't exist, then we should have one, we should make one. Whether we do that under enforcement order or how we do that, I don't know yet. Yeah, there's a fence under there. That's their, yeah.
Not sure what that is.
Probably like a
Table.
bird. It might have been like a stand to put like a potted plant on or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So a little breakfast table in my grandmother's garden.
What is the negative, specifically, what is the negative impact of all of this to the abutters?
That's their yard.
Oh,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
previous
sorry.
years- In previous years, just along that fence line, we've taken out 5 to 6 truckloads of weeds just along that fence, just trying to keep it under control.
All right, so the fence must be right in here somewhere,
Hmm,
I'm guessing, right?
Mhm.
yeah, it's under there somewhere.
Yeah.
Correct.
So everything just comes across the fence and into your grandparents' yard, then that's
Correct.
But is it the water or is it just what?
There
I'm sorry.
have been years where the water line has flooded out so much that it's been just inches from my foundation.
I
And
see,
I
okay.
couldn't use half of my yard till like the middle of August.
Okay.
Because it was
so-
just,
Okay, so the point is that because presumably this is not performing as it was designed, and that is causing water to go from where it should have stayed in this retention area to escape the retention area and go into your yard.
right.
Am I saying, I just want to make sure that I understand. I'm kind of a little bit of I just want to make sure I know and, what the big issue here is. And now we
Yeah,
have to go.
It doesn't drain water at all.
Okay.
I mean, the only reason that there's really nowhere in it right now is because of the severe drought that we're in. But on any average year, there's at least 18 to 24 inches of water, just from what I can actually
Okay.
see right in the.
So, Rebecca, have you located the complete R file for this project?
Yes.
Okay.
And like I
And-
said, the only part I haven't been able to fine tune is of course, what we're looking for.
But you do have the
maintenance of-
design, but you have a designed, you do have the plan includes a design for the stormwater management, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's why I just wanted to make sure that it was, okay.
Yep, so where there is, and one of the issues is that, as you know, when we get the as-built plan to close it out, we get to compare to ensure that it was actually constructed as designed. I don't know if this was constructed as designed. Maybe it wasn't deep enough. Maybe it was too deep. Maybe it was too long. I don't know. Maybe the invert of the pipe isn't at the correct elevation. You know, there's a lot of maybes. In addition, I haven't really, unless you're creating a wetland, I've never, basins typically get their vegetation maintained.
Okay. Does the order of conditions say anything about maintenance? Have you checked that and it says nothing?
I
It's
did.
silent?
So what it says is it references the drainage document, and it's in the drainage document that we have to try to find the maintenance schedule.
I see.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, we do it now, we reference it differently, but back then.
Okay. And the drainage document is that we don't see that in the file.
Nope.
Got it.
That's what the file's really old. I meant to do it today.
No, I understand.
Check with Bill Renault to see if maybe somewhere they have one on file. My greatest hope, and what I do see as reasonable is, like I mentioned, the attorney has mentioned to me that they have hired Hayes Engineering. As you know, with our request for certificate of compliance, which I've told them they need to get, comes the engineering statement that says, this is the difference between what was proposed and what was actually done.
And Hayes ought to have a copy of that document as well, so
That's
they
what
can
I
provide
would
it.
You should.
Yeah, and I just think as a matter of that they ought to provide it if they have it, obviously.
Yeah.
Where
And
is
that's-
where's the property in regards to
Go back to the driveway. Nope. Yes. Okay. That's coming in. If you look to the left of that, there's like a green rectangle.
yep,
That's the basin. And if you go one house to the next, yes, that's the house in the yard that I took
Okay.
pictures in.
okay.
And it's right along that fence line.
Wow. So the basin has really filled in.
They have
Doesn't look
photos.
like it's a basin.
Yeah. It's like yeah, I don't know what, a jungle garden? I don't know.
I mean, and it's so, I mean, it
So-
would be impossible to maintain that.
What year was it constructed?
Jeez, great question.
What did you mean by that statement? It would be
Uh,
impossible to maintain.
What I meant was, in the event that the condition stayed as is, it would be impossible for the homeowners to continuously maintain along that fence line of all that overgrown vegetation. That's what I was saying. Or thinking. I actually thought it out loud, apparently.
Mr. Gallagher, is the issue the water goes onto your property?
Yes, it has, in severe rainstorms where it's been, extremely rainy season. There
Mhm.
are pictures that I sent to Rebecca of the water actually coming over the pond into my yard.
And there is no outlet pipe that you know of? Is that correct? No,
There
there's
is a
no
pipe
pipe
that goes, there is a pipe that goes under the driveway, right where that street light is, somewhere's around right in the front there.
Yeah,
But the other side of it, we couldn't find the other side of it.
hmm. Okay.
Another interesting tidbit of information. The homeowners mentioned it to me today, and I remembered reading about it in, not this time I've looked at this file, but I think the previous time, that at one point there was a pump that was put in either one of these catch basins or one of the manholes or something.
Right, we made him take it out.
Yeah, but as we were chatting about today, it just was interesting because we were wondering why there would need to be a pump if it was functioning as designed. Jim, do you remember that stuff?
I can't remember why. They took the initiative to put the pump in for some particular reason, and then we had them remove it. I don't remember why though.
This must be the storm drain feeding into that retention pond.
So they cleared just that little spot right there.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to see.
So it's-
Yeah, they didn't clear anything out of the pond itself.
Mm.
But if the, wouldn't you want the vegetation to be there? Other than you don't want it to, you don't want, well, we really won't know until we see what this, how it was designed.
When it was first put in, the vegetation was, you know, okay.
Yeah,
We didn't mind the way it looked before,
yeah,
but now it's gotten so out of control
yeah,
and it's not aesthetically pleasing. And,
yeah, I can see that, yeah,
you know, not doing anything aside from, you know, just causing havoc in our yard.
yeah.
The vegetation is holding quite a bit of water too, though. And this must have been designed, I vaguely remember this project. It must have been designed as a vegetated retention pond, right?
I don't know, I'm kind of wondering, I can't remember.
I remember it was very flat out there. We had contours every 6 inches. You know,
Oh, we
on the-
did that, yeah, yeah, absolutely, we did that because,
trying to get
we
the
were
water
trying to
flow.
make sure, we were trying to make sure there wasn't a hydraulic connection to the river.
Right. Looks like this is sinking in also.
I guess we need more information to figure this out.
Yeah, this whole area looks to be sinking.
Yeah,
Mm.
Why did they put the pump in there? I can't remember that. Well, so Rebecca, so how does it stand now with the lawyer and the whoever's in charge of this? Are they?
They are supposedly contacting the property manager and landscape company.
Yeah,
They're going to ask them at a minimum hopefully between now and the next meeting to at least clear off that fence line.
Right.
Get all that
Yeah.
renegade vegetation out of there.
Yeah, they should
Yeah.
go right through and clear a little
Yeah,
path.
just get that off of there.
Yeah.
To make it livable. And then we're gonna start working on what is the long-term solution, what should it have been, what has happened. And there's a
Mhm.
possibility that how they proposed it, just as we live and learn 20 years later, didn't work out well.
Mm,
In which
yeah.
case you might have to get them to reconsider how they do this. I don't know if it'll go there. I have no idea if that will happen.
Did you say if you have an as-built or not?
I don't have one. I need one.
Yeah, because I'd like to know how close that retention pond comes to the fence. And if that was built properly.
So I do have the notice of intent plan. Or one of them from 2000. And it does have contour, they're very strange contours that does not indicate that they created a slope on that side. So I'm not sure if that was because, well, what makes sense is I don't think that was previously a low spot. I think they created that out of upland, right? So they dug down. So they didn't create as much, or it wasn't designed to create as much of a berm, so to speak, on that side, as much as it is towards the back and the
Mhm.
front. I'm not sure why that would be. I'm just not sure about that. But anyway,
not their land.
say again?
It's not their land. Mr.
Yeah.
Gallagher's family's.
So it's
Oh, it's on that side, you're saying they didn't
Yes.
create the drainage. That's pretty absurd. They
well,
want it from the road.
it's like they created high slopes on 3/4 of it and not the last side. I don't understand that. We'll have to
Yeah.
figure that out. So anyway, we'll figure it out, but I just wanted you guys to have an update. And let you know that hopefully that should be coming, more information on the 20th. And if you get a chance, take a drive out. You get an idea. You can see it very easily from the road.
Okay.
Okay.
And like I said, the attorney is hoping to not only be on the Zoom call next on the 20th, but also to have more information. Some of this that's outstanding, hopefully we will have it cleared up by then, or at least started to.
All right. I'll drive by this week.
Anybody that does want to come by, we'd be happy to meet with you guys and invite you onto our property side too, so you can see it better.
Thank you.
It's actually worth seeing. It's hard to see from the pictures, and I suggest that you do a drive-by because it'll give you a little bit better perspective.
Should we schedule a site visit?
Sure.
Well, I think, yeah, I guess, do we need permission to go on the property?
You have our consent. We're more than happy to invite you.
Well, okay, so for your side, we could do it, but are we gonna see everything from your side, Mr. Gallagher?
Most of
no.
it you can either see from our side or from the street itself.
Right.
Okay.
You
all
can
right,
see
so
right from Millbrook Lane, right? I'm not sharing
Yeah.
right now, but yeah, you can see right from Millbrook Lane.
then
I will
think we
remind
should-
you, Jimmy, that you have an open order of conditions on the Millbrook condo property.
Well, it's expired, isn't it?
It hasn't been closed out. I think, I'm assuming you were worried about going on the property.
Yeah, that's all.
This is
But,
all public.
It's still open, and I don't think they would mind, but I can ask.
Yeah. This is a public street. Just standing right here, you'd be able to see right down that line, what's going on.
Yeah.
You can, but you can get a much better view if you actually walk down our property. You can really tell from up in the back of our property where the white fence is. It's a little bit higher up, and you can actually see across a lot better.
Okay.
What's the length of it from beginning to end?
I'm not 100% sure.
The length of,
That whole area there. Is
oh,
it-
I don't know.
Looks like it's a majority of this property,
It's gotta be
the length of the.
100 feet anyways.
Okay, so you want to do a site walk?
Yeah.
Yeah, or again, just go by on your own. Take a peek. I could do tomorrow. That would be it for this week.
I'm gonna have to go by on my own, I think.
Okay, well, we'll just go do it individually.
Yeah, it'd be a lot easier than planning. All right, anything else on that? So you're gonna see if you can get an as-built, Rebecca?
Working on an as-built, yep.
Yep, okay. Anything else on Millbrook? If not, anything you want to tackle next, Rebecca? We'll go in order.
I have no suggested order.
All right, so next item would be Open Space Committee, appointment of committee members. Thought we had a volunteer, I think last time.
So I think what you guys need to do is vote that you guys would like to form an open space committee to work in it, to prepare the open space, the new open space plan. And then go through and appoint the members that I've given you. We do have a couple of spots that and some information outstanding. One is that we need to advertise for a member of the public, and I did send that information to Sherry today. She was under the impression that town council would do the appointments. I reread and looked around and then spoke with Tom Mullen. And unless there was a vote at a town meeting to specifically designate the open space committee to be appointed by a different board, it should be up to you guys. That is how I read it. That's how I read Tom Mullen's response when I asked that question. So I did send an email to Sherry that said, unless you have, or do you have the minutes of some town meeting vote that I don't know about, which is possible. But otherwise, I believe it should be you guys who do all the appointing, as you are really the entity responsible for open space in all ways, shapes, and forms under the MGL. So I think the first thing to do, though, is to vote that you want to create an open space committee for that purpose of working to create, update the town of Wakefield's open space and recreation plan. And then I would say you could start with discussing the committee and the appointments. Does that make sense? Judy?
Makes perfect sense.
So say it again, to vote that we want to be able to appoint.
Nope. Vote that you're going to create an open space committee to gather and to participate in the preparation with Horsley Witten of the open space and recreation plan. I think you just have to vote that you're making a committee. I'm not
Okay.
even positive that you need to, but I think there's a possibility you need to. And so I'm not getting great answers. So I would suggest doing it, because it's better to do it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
Okay.
So I would just start there, make that formal, and such and such, they voted to create an open space committee. And then I would, next, we can go through the names that have been given to me for volunteers. And then we can, there will be some vacancies, and then we will tackle that at either the 20th, or there's a possibility it might be the meeting after that, which I don't remember, but I'll get it for you by the time you make that decision.
So I move that we vote to form an open space committee, the purpose of which is to review and work with our consultant on open space plan.
Is there a second?
Good job.
Is that a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Teresa,
Yes.
Silvana,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes,
Ken,
Yes,
Jimmy,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. All right, that was step one. What's step two?
So there are some members that you can appoint to these, to be a part of your newly formed, voted on committee.
Do you send them some kind of letter saying they've been appointed to it? Or?
So I sent an email that said, we are in the process of updating the open space plan. We are looking for any boards, committees, et cetera. If they have a person on their board, committee, et cetera, that is interested in being the representative for that board, committee, et cetera, please send along their name, and we would like to appoint them to the open space committee. And so I did get responses back, and I sent those in an email. There's a few things that still that are up in the air. But we can say to be determined, and hopefully we can, over the course of the next month, because I think the next meeting is October 4th, or the next meeting next meeting is the 20th, September 20th. And the one after that is October 4th. In the event we don't get all the information by September 20th, hopefully we get it all done by October 4th. So that's the next two. Going backwards. So we have all those names. They are perfectly aware because they volunteered.
So
Okay, but I'm
can I-
just saying, do you send them something to say that they've been appointed? I mean, because that's like what the town does, right?
Sure.
I mean, I'm asking
No,
you. I don't know.
we'll send them an email just to confirm it, because they'll
Yeah.
need to know when the first meeting is and things like that.
If you would like it more formal, I can do it on a formal letterhead and with a signature, or I can send the email, your choice.
Okay.
Did you send us that email already?
Yes, she sent us a list
Yes.
on, 2/28 on September 1st.
Wait, that's going backwards. That's that pond
Yeah. Wow.
without vegetation.
That's one of the bad rainstorms.
Do you know when this picture was taken?
I
long
want
time?
to say it was around 2005-ish.
Yeah. A long
Okay.
time ago.
All right.
So the one I sent you that you're looking for, I think was sent on September 1st at 2:28.
September 1st.
Or I can just read it to you if you prefer.
Well, can I move to appoint the chair that you and Ken? The first two names are Judy as chair and Ken as our rep for the Conservation Commission. So that's pretty non-controversial.
One would think. However, do you have to vote to appoint your whole committee first and then nominate a chair?
Why?
I don't know. I just thought that. Okay.
You're getting all parliamentary on us, Rebecca.
Sorry.
A chair is a member of the committee.
Well,
So
wait, so you're saying that can we appoint the committee members, can't we appoint who the chair is?
are you saying the committee needs to appoint the chair as opposed to us?
That's not outside of our control, who the committee appoints as their chair?
Is
That's
that what you're
interesting.
saying, Rebecca?
If I'm being honest, what I'm saying is I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure how that works.
Yeah.
I would say go for it. Let's do it as it's listed up in the email. In the event we need to make a correction, we'll go back and make a correction. But this is how I read it. I apologize for not knowing the ins and outs of this. I thought I did, and then I get an email back, then I realize I don't. So I would say let's just go forward. Let's appoint these people, appoint them, Judy as the chair, and in the event that I need to change something, I'll let you know.
Do we have to appoint the entire committee at once or because that goes to like, do we have the authority to name additional people as time goes on? Or
That's what Rebecca
move
just
people?
said, is that she talked to the town council about it and said that, yes, we do. Unless Sherry tells us we don't, if there was a vote at a town meeting that the town council, not Tom Mullen, COUNCIL can do it, Peter.
Mhm.
Yeah, so unless otherwise specifically stated, you guys are in complete control of the open
Right.
space plan and committee.
Hmm.
That's the way I read it. Not only from my email with Tom Mullen, but more importantly, the MGL chapter 40, section 8C, right? It says it right in there.
Yeah, it does.
But we could vote for a few members now and the rest of the members later. Is that?
Well, the reason I was asking that is I thought we could do a two-step, at least, start out with our people and then.
Why not
and have-
appoint everyone at once? They've all
Right.
agreed to be part of this.
These
I
are
don't know what the
volunteers,
reason would be to
right?
wait.
Well,
Let's
do we
do
know
it.
in fact that they volunteered or that they were
Yes,
suggested?
they all volunteered.
How do we know that?
I have an
Because
email.
Rebecca talked to them.
Okay, let me tell you, all right, let me go backwards and say, when we were talking about forming the open space committee, what we did was we looked at, and when I say we, I mean Judy and I, we looked at previous plans, we looked at some plans that are online, and we also spoke with Horsley Witten, and they gave us an idea of who should be on the committee, should being in quotes, because it's really however you guys want to do it, but for the most part, this is a typical breakdown of what an open space committee would look like. You have a representative from the commission, clearly, or 1, 2, or 3 or more. You have, town council, you have environmental sustainability, you have the ZBA, you have the planning board, you have council on aging, you have parks and rec. There's typically one representative from each of those departments or boards that are also volunteering to be that board's representative on the open space committee. So I sent along an email to for instance, the ZBA, and I said, would you guys like to have a representative on the Open Space Committee? If so, please forward me the name of the person who's interested, and I'm going to ask the Conservation Commission to appoint them on January 6th. They replied back. Most of them said, here is the name of the person. Thank you very much. We look forward to it. The Dan McGrath from Recreation Department said he isn't going to have a meeting until the 21st, so we can't really gauge interest. If we had to know right away, it would be him. I wrote back to him. I said, we don't have to know right away. We'll wait till after your meeting to find out what you'd like to do. In which case, that particular one would not be able to be appointed until October 4th, because their meeting is the day after your next one. Similarly, the planning board said, we really want to do this. We have a couple people in mind. We want to talk about it a little bit longer. I said, sure, talk about it a little bit longer, get back to me. The other ones, the names that you see there, including Bill Renault, I reached out to and that said, is I assume you'd like to be on it. Would you like to be on it? He said, yes. All of these people know, and they have volunteered to be the representative. I went through the board chair, and this is the board chair coming back with the people who have agreed to be on it.
For me, for my ignorance, who is Aaron? Which,
Yeah, I did reread that since that's up on the screen and it looks to be all right. She works at the town.
She's the Economic
the-
Development Director.
okay, thanks. That's what I didn't know.
Yeah, sorry.
So would we want to wait till we have the full list?
What's the difference? Why don't we just appoint them?
Yeah,
They're all-
We can appoint the ones that we know now and then continue.
then-
fill the vacancies when you get them, get the names.
Is there a limit to how many people would be on normally on
Yes.
one of these? There
Yes,
is?
the consultant recommended that it be kept smaller.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think there's a formal limit because you kind of are in control of this, but I think that the philosophy was too many cooks in the kitchen and you would get nowhere.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. But there's still all these public workshops and forums and surveys and all the other stuff. So yeah, so that makes sense. So that means at this point in time, there will only be one member of the public that would be on this committee with all of these people that we have here.
Okay.
Will that be determined by October 4th or the 20th for us to get everyone in?
Probably October 4th. That's my guess, because so that was the email that I went back and forth with Sherry today, was organizing. They have to put an advertisement out with some information to see, and then see who requests to be that person. And then I guess you guys would review and appoint from what the responses you receive.
Yep.
So there's 6 that we know of for sure.
Yes, there's 6 designated peoples, and then there are 3 to come. 1 from Parks and Recreation, 1 from the Planning Board, and 1 member of the public. And as far as that vacancy for Community and Economic Development, we're just going to hold that as a vacancy in that slot for now and not fill that.
So you've got 10 people then, so you're gonna have about 10 people on the committee. Is that right? I don't think I can-
Yeah, so
I wouldn't try to go over 10. I'll tell you, that's a lot of people.
it looks like, 10 or 11 based on the asterisks.
Hmm.
There's a couple of asterisks with nothing next to them. Is that like one of those town councilor and I'm not sure what the other one might
I
be.
think that's a formatting email issue.
Oh, okay.
It's funny how that worked out.
All right, so you're looking for these 6 to be appointed now.
with Judy as the chair.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's what we should do.
All right. So somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. What is it?
Is there a second? Yeah, what is the motion to appoint these six? With
Yeah,
Judy
to
as
appoint-
chair?
Yes.
Do you have to read their names?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay,
Or just one at a time?
me? Can you put it up? Because I just lost it over here. I have awful connection,
Yeah,
please. Sorry.
it's okay.
I don't know about anybody else, but I've had choppy Wi-Fi all day. Okay. All right, I make a motion to appoint Judy as chair, Ken
Lepides.
Alpidis, sorry, as Conservation Commission, Sean Cash as Environmental Sustainability Commission, Joe Pride, Board of Appeals, Karen Burke, Council on Aging, William Renault, DPW. And do I continue on?
No, that's
No.
six.
I think that's it. Okay.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Teresa,
Yes,
Silvana,
Yes,
Peter,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes,
Ken,
Yes,
Jimmy,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. Okay. Is that it for the open space committee discussion?
Mhm.
looks like a good start.
Judy, is there anything else on that we need to take care of?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to 102.
Oh, wait, Bob, can you, actually Haley wants to be on the committee too. So do you want to appoint her while we're here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should.
Would somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Haley to the committee.
I second.
All right, any discussion? If not, all in favor? Jimmy,
Yes.
Ken,
yes,
Paul,
Yes,
Peter,
Yes.
Silvana,
yes.
Teresa,
yes.
and I also vote yes.
Haley, congratulations.
Been appointed. We think.
We just improved the committee.
yes.
All right, next up, 102 New Salem, site visit update. That was Jimmy and Peter were going out there.
Yeah, for, you talking to me?
Yeah,
That's
you guys
New
are doing
Salem?
a site
New
visit
Salem
in New
Street.
Salem after breakfast to look at the fence
Peter
line or,
looked at it. Ask Peter, he looked at it.
We didn't have breakfast, but we did see the site.
Yeah.
okay. Any
And
updates?
indeed, there was a fair amount, when we went the first time, a lot of the backyard was, the mowed portion of the backyard is in the BVW and that is unchanged. We talked to the owner who was very, I thought very nice and he said that he would stop mowing and he would put some plantings in the BVW, the mowed BVW area. And, and our hope is that will, that it will start to resemble the, kind of the area that the end, after the mowing, which is, pretty dense. Anything that you saw differently, Jim?
I thought he said that he would put a row of vegetation in along the beach.
He would put a border. He would put a row of
Right.
vegetation for a border, but
Right.
he also
Yeah.
said that he might plant a couple of trees in the
Trees.
mowed area
Right.
as well.
Yeah. right.
In the wetland area, which I think
Yep.
would be enhance because the wetlands there, the part that is wetlands that isn't mowed, is full of trees.
Yeah.
So I thought that represented improvements. And I think he did specifically say that he would put he would put something to denote the, because he has, rebar stakes where the wetland, showing the wetland line that he's going to pull, obviously. And we do want to have sort of a record of where the BBW line is.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So the rebar was there to designate that area?
Yeah, I think
He
he
must
had
have pulled
it-
them out and put something else in
Yeah,
because they were rebar.
yeah, right. I think he put him in where the wetland line is.
Okay,
I mean, they looked like they were in the right place.
So he's gonna plant along that line designated by the stakes.
Well, we didn't even specify. We were just
Okay.
glad to get something planted in there.
Yeah, he said he would plant some things to be a substitute for the rebar markings.
all right. So Rebecca, what was your original question regarding that?
Nope, that was it. So when we had the meeting for their certificate of compliance, we had this conversation. The owner said, he, exactly as you guys just described during that meeting, that, he'd be willing to stop mowing. You guys said you would go out and or those guys said they go out and take a look. You guys issued the certificate of compliance anyway. And so it was just following up on that conversation where they, said they would go on the site visit, and the owner said he'd be willing to do something, and that sounds like exactly what happened, which is great. So that was really the extent of it.
Okay,
Mhm.
How
Now, can we
are we
put-
gonna, how are we gonna know that whether he does it or not?
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we put something like docket something for like a year from now to
A
just
year?
a season from now? Yeah. Well,
What we can
mean-
do, what I can do is I can write him a letter, say that I understand this is what was discussed. We'll check back with him, and I mean, he's voluntarily being very.
yeah, I don't want to be. I don't want to
We'll
be.
check back in,
Not in a position to be heavy-handed.
yeah, 6
So,
months and.
But on
let us
the
know
other
if
hand,
you have any questions.
I want to thank him for his,
Yeah.
that was interested in, whatever, and but I guess what I thought, just on our end, I would be of some note that sometimes I think when we close something out, it's never to be discussed again, and this would be something I'd be interested in knowing what things look like in a year.
Okay. I will add it to my
But
calendar.
I also like very much your idea of thanking him, sending a letter thanking him and for his willingness to put some plantings to indicate where the along
Yeah.
PW, so that to consider planting some trees in
Were the
the.
plantings not part of the original order of conditions?
No, we never, what happened was, my recollection is that it was mowed, and we talked about whether we could, whether we would insist that the mowed area stop, not be mowed anymore. And there was a discussion that we had. So, I mean, that ship kind of sailed.
Hmm. It was great that he agreed to that.
I mean,
Yeah. If it was always that easy, it'd be so great.
Well, the point is that whether it would make me feel a lot better if we were having a discussion in a year saying that everything we thought was going to happen happened. And so that's the happy ending.
I feel like he's gonna do it.
I do too. I thought he seemed like a terrific person. And
That's great.
on a personal level, I thought he seemed like the kind of guy who does what he says he's going to do.
We talked about other options too. We talked about putting granite bounds in and stuff like that. And he preferred the vegetation. He actually brought up the vegetation.
any discussion as to what type of vegetation?
No, we really didn't talk about that. Maybe, Rebecca, when you write a letter, you can offer some suggestion.
Right, because if it's that wet there, you gotta be careful what you plant.
Yeah, because, yeah.
He did mention arborvitae's, didn't he?
Did he?
I thought he might have said something about that. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, I'm not sure, Peter. He talked about the deer eating all the apples on his apple trees. We had a big discussion about that.
So maybe deer resistant
They,
vegetation. Right.
his issue is they don't eat the whole thing. They take a bite and throw the rest away.
Sometimes the arborvitaes too, they eat just the bottom part, so it looks like super skinny and narrow like this, and then it comes
Yeah,
out
right.
the tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what is available for deer resistant.
Yeah,
Like there. but-
right.
Well,
I don't know.
The coyotes might address that issue quite nicely in the next couple of years.
They're
All right,
after the bunnies.
all right, so we're all set with that?
I think so. That's great.
Yep. So maybe you'll send them a letter then, Rebecca, offering some
will.
suggestions, okay. I mean, high bush blueberry would be nice back there, but the deer eating the apples, they'll probably eat the blueberries and the bush itself.
Mm.
All right,
Please don't suggest only high bush blueberries.
I
What's
think
that?
he did. I think he said he wanted to put some fruit trees out there, didn't he, Peter?
Yeah, he said he was thinking about putting some trees there. He liked that. That was his idea, to put those not on the border, but in the wetlands, in the mowed, in what is currently mowed lawn, but is part of the BBW.
Yeah, most fruit trees wouldn't survive if it's that wet.
Yeah.
Judy, what did you say
He's
about
got
the
two
blueberries?
apple trees out there, but they are up high on the ground.
I said, as long as it's not just high bush blueberries.
Yeah, you could
What's that?
alternate.
What did you say? You want blueberries?
I said, no, I said, as long as it's not only high bush blueberries.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And we know how you love those.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, moving on. 595 North Ave, Lakeside Inn. This is the invasive species management update.
Okay, so I think I sent you guys the email
Yeah.
from Ann McNemany. To be honest with you, talk about things that need to get back to. I've long since forgotten. So back in 2006, there was an enforcement order that was given out for at the Lord Wakefield, obviously many moons ago.
Mhm.
A lot of time passed, and it was at the end of closing out that enforcement order, they had proposed a planting plan. And in that planting plan, they had, oh, you know what? I have that planting plan. I got a scan of it. As part of that planting plan, they asked if they could go through and monitor and remove the invasive species to allow the plants that they are looking to have have an opportunity. So there was an invasive species management plan, of which I don't really have a formal plan, but what I do have is a planting plan. So I believe what Ann did was go back through, and I'm going to forward you this. Hold on a second. I'm going to give this to you, Bob, right now. Hopefully, so I'm getting a new laptop because the one that I use, the keyboard is broken, and it just makes more sense to replace the whole thing. So hopefully when that happens, I can share my screen because I'll have a
Mhm.
camera on the laptop that I also use for work. Bob, I sent you something.
Yeah,
Should be a scanned image. So that's the planting plan that was approved under that enforcement order. So anyway, I don't believe there's been any invasive species management out there in years and years and years. And so this email that I received that I believe I forwarded to you is somewhat random, but basically the gist of it is they've started going through and removing some of the invasive species to make room for these guys. And it sounds like they've just wanted us to know that they've started doing that again in case there's any questions. So now you guys know.
Did they actually put in these plants?
I believe so. This is,
yeah, they were supposed to quite a while ago. What's the
They're
date?
finally doing it.
I think it's a maintenance, speaking of me, it's a maintenance thing. So in order to have, from what I vaguely remember is we tried to,
Oh, six.
so they wanted a view, so they were cutting down vegetation. And
Right.
then we gave an enforcement order because you can't cut down the BBW. And then they said, if I remember, and they said something along the lines of what the invasive species. So then I think Elaine and I came up with a plan that said, why don't you plant native wetland species that are shorter in the areas that you want to see, and then taller ones where, so they would have like, because I think they wanted a view. And so they would have some of the view, but yet not, but also having native wetland vegetation there. And I think that this plan is what came out of that. And
Right.
so in order to have that work where you have that sort of like scalloped or garlandy type of situation where you have like maybe some tall trees like this, but in between you have a vista, they have to maintain the invasive species. So I think that's where we stand. And so that's what they're doing. And they updated us with this report. To be honest with you, I never would have, I wouldn't have known that they were still doing it, but Anne's great. And so she forwarded along this report somewhat randomly.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you say that either you or Elaine have been out there to check it out?
Not this time around. Elaine comes back this Friday. It is, I have like a list of site visits for her. Welcome back. Here's some site visits. I'm gonna put these on the list. Only I try to give her the ones that she's really much more familiar with than I am. Like, so she had worked with Anne and she had been out there the first couple of times. So I'm gonna have her go out and take a peek at it. Unless there's something specific that she needs to pass along to you guys, you probably won't hear about this again until the next year when we get an invasive species report.
Okay.
Okay.
Rebecca, do you know if they've been maintaining the filter berm on Willard Street?
No idea.
Let's see.
Who's they?
Town.
I can ask.
Yeah, because they're supposed to be doing it twice a year, cleaning it twice a year.
Okay.
Looks like they must be. It looks pretty well manicured there.
What is
Yeah.
that, Jimmy?
It filters out phosphorus and
Really?
you know, all the stuff that comes off on the other side of the street. So
Well, look at the look at the
it's
growth.
like it's like a sand filter.
Okay,
I don't know if there's algae bloom or vegetation, but it's crazy around that area.
yeah, it sure is.
Even where that is now.
Well, I don't know when this picture was taken, but I mean, if you look at it, you know, that area along the shoreline here is just loaded. It looks like
But
an
not where
algae bloom.
but not where that outflow is.
Well, because there's water moving right there.
But
It's
it's
moving
picking up
water?
the water. It's picking up the water from the other side of North Ave.
Right, it's coming from over near the KFC
Right.
and wetland and back here and back to the car dealership. And
Could you
coming
look
out
at it?
the street.
But you don't think, Bob, you could look at it the opposite way, that maybe the water that's coming out is not creating the algae and that, or you think it's just pushing the algae to the left and the right?
I'm not sure what's happening. I'm just saying there's a lot of algae around that area and I don't see it, you know, near the yacht club or on the point here or around the cemetery. It's really concentrated in that area. That is algae. That would tell me there's a lot of nutrients
Yeah.
making their way into this area.
Is it
either from the
possible
lawn-
that that's the way the current goes? I mean, that's an interesting point, looking at that thing. Why is it that you would see something there and not any other place? Is it
So-
coming from the immediately adjacent shoreline? Is it just because the current, you know, kind of blow? I would think the prevailing winds would go west to east. And so that wouldn't be, that it would be probably coming from the land right into there rather than, you know, nutrients blowing across the lake onto, you know, and settling near the shoreline.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this image, there's a much higher concentration in that general area.
Mhm.
So my thought would be there's a much bigger nutrient load making its way into the lake in that area, either via
Well,
that
and you know
outlet
what?
or from the
Well,
grassed area.
I
Didn't
think
we
there's a lot of-
hear-
Go ahead.
Say that again, Ken?
I think there's a lot of variables involved. You don't know time of year, it could be worse. Other
Yeah, but
places.
look at
different
Look
times
at
of
that whole
year.
thing where you have a buffer, where you have
Just
sort of
tough-
the
tough to
wooded.
Draw conclusions on a
wait.
snapshot, that's all.
Yeah,
Yeah, but look at when you go south on the lake, along that same side, there
It's
isn't.
all
And-
around the
and
lake.
but there's all.
But what if 2
it looks
weeks
like
later
there's a-
that side is full? We don't know, just by looking at one photo.
You're saying it's that timing.
No,
One
I
thing
don't know is the point. I
One
think
thing
you have
I-
to look at it in a number of ways to
agreed.
make a
It's just-
conclusion.
It's
if
just
that-
interesting to see that right
It's
there.
extremely interesting to see.
Okay, but
I got a
one
question.
thing,
Oh,
one
for
thing I
you.
can tell you is that I know when Mike Collins was here, they tested it to see if there was a difference from one side of the berm to the other, and it was removing nutrients. So I don't know what caused the other stuff, but I was under the assumption that it was working fine.
And you can look, that's not, I mean, you're right that there may be an alternative explanation, Bob, but I'm looking where that thing outflows and there isn't, it's totally different than to the left and to the right.
Does DPW provide test results that they need to take as part of their, NIPTs or whatever testing that they do on the lake?
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't either, but I can find out for you.
I mean, there could be fertilizer runoff from the grassed
That's what-
areas here.
That was my thought too, but Ann, I don't think
Mhm.
would allow that. With all the work she's doing out there.
I'm not sure Anne would be privy to that.
Yeah,
Well, that's true too, yeah.
I gotta say that looking at that picture, that would come to mind. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thought, yeah. Maybe we should
And
question.
is that the area where most of the inflow is to the lake?
It's pretty much the only inflow.
Right. Well, I mean, it's coming in, picking up nutrients from wherever, right?
No, I mean, there's lots of drain pipes that go into the lake. There's
Right.
Right,
dozens
this
of
is
them.
there's the street drainage going in. This is a primary feed though, hydraulically from the wetland over here.
Okay.
Mhm.
So this area here,
Hmm.
and back of the dealership and KSC and all that,
Yeah.
that's what's making its way over to here.
So it's basically underground until it hits that,
Well, there's a stream
space.
right here,
Right.
that is, daylighting and then goes under.
Hmm. That's what I mean. Under
yeah.
Willard is
Yep.
where it seems to
That's where the
go.
pipe is, the culvert's up there, yeah.
Okay.
There's an open stream right here.
Hmm.
You know what you might want to do is ask Janice Nigro if they are fertilizing along that area of the hotel, because she would know. Maybe it's worth a letter to her to just ask her what
Okay.
they're doing as far as, maintenance for the lawn and stuff like that, because we've never mentioned it to her.
Well,
And
let
I
me
can-
look back in the other enforcement order to see what was happening there. Then I will, if there's nothing in there, I'll write that letter.
Okay.
Did it say anything in the notes?
I mean, it is green almost everywhere around the lake, though.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, you see the green
I
glow
mean,
around the
it's
perimeter,
everywhere. It's
Right.
everywhere.
but it's just super concentrated.
Yeah, it is super concentrated there, though. That is different than the rest of the lake.
Exactly.
What about up at the other end by the gingerbread place? Is that pretty green? No, that's not really that green.
No, and we know, we do see algae blooms. Up
Yeah,
at
I mean,
times.
I know.
Hey, Bob, what do you, you're using Google? Can you do like some time jumps and see like, if you do like Google Earth or whatever, do the history and if you look at the lake and you see if it's green in the same location all the time?
Yeah, I don't have Google Earth installed on this one.
Ken might be able to do it.
I can do it.
I'm gonna try to get it on my tablet. I lost my computer. I don't have my computer anymore, so I don't have all my stuff.
Oh, okay.
I'll work on it.
Okay, hold on.
I got both Google Earth.
All right. Let's see what else we got. Discuss electronic signatures for registry.
Did you guys read that? I think it's something that we should probably consider.
Yeah, did Tom Mellon get back to you, Rebecca?
Yeah, he did. What did he say? I think he said, do it. Or not in those words. So there is, let's see. There's a method there described in that email along with those attachments that say how to do it. I did forward it to Tom Mullen and said, is this something that we can do? The answer was yes. So it's more, if you guys want to go through the process, then we can go through the process. If you want to make that formal vote, we can either do it tonight or I can prepare the paperwork and you guys can do it at the next meeting. And hopefully that will eliminate some of the hassle of getting signatures, of which I think that my 2 certificates of compliances are still out there somewhere.
But they were all signed off.
But where are they?
They're with me right now.
Because I have time limits on when I'm supposed to send these things out, so
Yeah,
it
I
gets real
know.
complicated. No, I know you know.
Gave it to me on a holiday weekend.
So that's when the meeting was. So anyway,
You actually hit it last week, Jim, just to clarify the point.
Oh,
You had.
well, it's a busy time of year.
Do you have enough signatures?
yeah.
Okay.
All right, so
Rebecca, when you prepare the vote, can you send it to me?
I'm sorry, can you say it again?
When you prepare the vote, can you send it to me?
Yes. So is that what you guys want me to do? Do you want me to prepare the paperwork as shown on the examples attachments?
Examples were not great. That's why I want to change them.
Oh, okay. Let me ask you this. Is it easier if you just create it?
Yes.
All right, you send it to me.
Okay.
Perfect. And the response back to Tom from Tom Mullen says, Rebecca, yes, it should work. Thanks, Tom.
Excellent.
So there we go. So if you guys, I think it's definitely worth doing.
So that's all it means is that we have a vote that we record in the Registry of Deeds that allows Rebecca to sign for, as we direct her, instead of having all of us sign, she could just sign it herself.
Yes, so it'll, from what I understand, on that signature page, I will type in each person's name who makes the vote. So obviously it's not everybody all the time, right? It's not standard. So each time, so for instance, maybe Teresa, you wouldn't be there at a meeting. Obviously your name wouldn't be typed electronic on that form. So it's just the people who vote on it. And then it's my name that is verifying that your name's on there are a signature. And then I have the original signature. So mine's the only one. So go to the one that shows the order of conditions. Please, sorry, Bob, sorry.
Hang on.
So when you guys are okay with it, you guys make your vote. I type in your names. I type in my name.
You don't need to do that. You just need to do it once. So there's a vote authorizing you.
I think we're talking about 2 different things.
On our behalf, right? And the document, I didn't understand why you sent the other document.
Because I have to modify the order of condition. So when I send out.
Oh, right. But
Yeah.
the vote that goes on record is one
Yes.
vote.
Correct, sorry. That's what I was thinking. We were
And
saying.
then this is for each one that you do.
Right.
Right.
So after we send and record
Right.
that vote that allows me to sign, under each, I guess you say it every time, maybe, I don't know. I'd have
No,
to-
so it was the one vote saying, we authorize Rebecca Davis as our agent to sign any document that we can, that otherwise would require Conservation Commission signature.
And then we add this in, I type your names up and I sign it and we give it to it can be recorded because mine is, there's one original on there. And
Right,
then you reference that book and, okay, yeah, so if you guys want to do that, I think at least until Zoom, while we still always have Zoom meetings, which may be forever, but at least for that, we keep this process in place while we don't have any in-person meetings. So what used to happen was we go to the meeting, you guys would vote, I'd have the paper in my hand, you guys are all in the meeting, you'd all sign it right there and I'd walk out with the signatures that night. Same
right.
night.
It would just be just a blank signature page.
Yeah,
Right.
So is this something, these are recorded documents, right?
yeah, that is.
So when we do, isn't this like a power of attorney or something to,
No,
you
it's not,
know,
it's like any vote you do. So again, I do this all the time for documents. It's like an authorized, it's like if you want a board vote authorizing someone on behalf of a board of directors to sign, you do a board vote. So it's just authorizing someone. It's not a power of attorney. It's authorizing someone to have the authority to sign. It's not a power of attorney.
I
So
understand.
if we have a
Right.
change in, commissioners, every time there's a change, we would update that.
Yes,
But don't you
That's the
have
only time-
someone,
That's the only time we'd update it, right? Because this
right.
once
Well,
would
right,
serve
well,
its purpose.
If God forbid, Rebecca wouldn't be with us anymore.
right, but I guess what I'm getting at is just when you do something like a manager of an LLC or a clerk of a corporation or an officer of a corporation, they appear on public records to be that. That's kind of all I'm curious about. And when you do a power of attorney, you record the power. In other words,
But-
the doc. In other
But
words,
sometimes
from
you
the
don't.
public-
Sometimes,
from the public record, you know that the person has signed. That's all I'm getting at is that because we're not going to record the vote.
we're gonna record the vote.
Vote's always gonna be recorded.
The vote is gonna be recorded, Peter.
Yeah, the vote. Okay, I understand this. I understand that the vote is going to be recorded, but
But we're essentially authorizing Rebecca as a single
yeah, I guess
signatory to sign
what
documents on
confuses
our
me is
behalf.
that what's confusing me is that what's confusing me is
You want an incumbency certificate saying who the
right. So no, I guess what I'm saying is that normally you're the real estate person. All I'm saying is that
yes.
you go to the Registry of Deeds or the Secretary of State's office and determine that the person who is the clerk,
not necessarily,
that
no,
I hereby, but a
but-
clerk certificate would be something where you say, I'm the clerk of the
right,
corporation.
and say I'm the clerk. But that's what basically you're saying. And again, so we can do
I
it.
think it's great to do. I'm all for doing it. All I was getting at is whether someone who's a title examiner is going to look at something that's recorded and whether something that is recorded, whether the registry will accept it or whether someone will, whether due authorization is adequately shown.
But Rebecca heard back from someone from the Registry of Deeds, someone who works at the registry.
Okay, that's fine. That was just my question. That's all.
Peter, you're good to questions, Peter.
What?
You're a true estate planner.
Well, all I know is that the registry loves to send stuff back.
Yes.
So-
And the person that you get an answer to who's behind the desk one day is
Right.
different from the
It's a
guy,
different person,
the
right?
person the next day. And all I'm really getting at is I know I'm familiar with powers of attorney, but what you record, you actually record the power, an original document,
But this is not a
giving
power.
where the principal has an original wet signature of the principal giving authorization is recorded. And here, I guess the question I have is, could we, for example, record an omnibus thing saying that that, we as the, duly authorized commissioners hereby authorize her to, do anything that she represents has been duly approved by the commissioners. That authorization can be relied upon by third parties. That's really it.
And that's what it's gonna say.
All
Okay.
right, so can Rebecca sign anything or only certain documents?
No, the answer is, in order for it to work, she has to be able to sign, I would say anything that can, and then, but she would only do it at our direction. But the document the document wouldn't say that, because otherwise, if the document you record in the registry of deeds says that, you need to get backup to say she's authorized. So this is gonna say she has the authority to do it, but she's not, the thing is, we're gonna trust her to do it only when we tell her to.
Well, I think she would represent that this was approved by, a majority vote of the.
Oh, and that's true on the, I think on the individual certificate, right? Rebecca, you say that on the document you record.
So you, I'm not sure I am gonna answer your question, but I'll try. So on the order of conditions form
Right.
signature page, it has a book and page number of the recorded vote that authorizes me to sign on your behalf. For the person who receives the order of conditions with only one signature, that paragraph is included in there with the book and page number. So then they take that to the registry to record their order of conditions. And that the registry presumably would look up that, see that this has been authorized through the proper channels,
Right.
and record the order.
I want to see for my authorization, see, book and page number blanket, but then you're I don't know. I'm not trying to, all I'm trying to do is understand that at some point there has to be a wet signature document by us saying that, or something that is on record saying that she's duly authorized, that, either by her position or by her, that's what, our LLC Act does a good job of saying, a manager duly authorized,
Isn't
and
that what
a
this,
corporate secretary, I believe, is entitled to say that this is a true and correct copy of a vote that was approved
Well,
by.
did you see the one that was actually done by another town? Is that you have a signature of the
Yeah, Bob,
person.
show the other one,
Yeah,
please. Sorry.
Bob, are you pulling up the other one?
yeah. Littleton,
yes,
Yes,
I'll see what that is.
certificate of vote or certificate of compliance?
certificate of vote.
Vote.
Okay.
So you have a signature,
Whoops, sorry.
which again, you do all the time for corporations, or you say, here we go. So you have a wet signature of,
April, it's hard to read just with the, let me see.
the blue. Get rid of
Yeah.
the blue there, Bob.
Yeah, it's not happening.
That's fine.
I don't know why it's doing that.
That's all right.
click to the side of it, Bob. And see if it'll
I did, and it
show
just, yeah, it goes away.
Yeah, but it just goes.
Go
away.
back, thank
It's a PDF
On
and
blank, Town Littleton met through session publicly available, blah, 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 moved that the little authorized the moved into second vote. Yes, aye, by affirmative vote. They both true and incorrect so Amy Green, Littleton.
She's
Littleton
certified.
authorized her
That's like
to
a
sign
clerk's-
any
this is a
physically
clerk's- It's
sign
like a
any
secretary.
document.
Yes, it is. It is, Peter. That's exactly right.
It's like a
Second
secretary.
signature.
And I guess the question I have is, I thought inherent in the, that there must be something that says that anything signed by the secretary, anything attested to by the secretary is true and correct, can be relied upon by third parties under, that position gives you the authority to authoritatively state that this happened. You know what I mean? It's not just anyone signs something saying, I hereby certify,
Oh, there it goes. It's white now.
Yeah.
I had to click on the page for some reason, the bottom.
Good work, Bob.
So
Yep.
this would be good for anything that has to do with Wetlands Protection Act.
That's right.
But then there's
That's
also
right.
other things that get signed, right? Like Jimmy signs Judy's payroll and
No, I don't.
budget
You
stuff.
don't- that-
We
that
don't,
doesn't-
we
that
don't
does not-
authorize any of
Oh,
those
Jim,
that need.
Jim
Right.
doesn't sign my payroll.
I don't sign anyone's payroll.
You used to, Jimmy.
Not,
Yeah,
no,
not
I
anymore.
used to, that was a long time. I used to sign for Ruth.
Can
Can you scroll the bottom where it says attest?
Town clerk. You guys have already voted, and I have the paper somewhere, that I already signed for you for small things. I can't remember the language. I have it right in my desk drawer so I can get it to you.
Yeah.
But you guys have already voted at one point to allow me to sign for things.
Right.
Mhm.
So I do.
But it's interesting that
like
as a
budget
matter of
items.
public record, that the Littleton Assistant Town Clerk, that the Assistant Town Clerk must be an office of public record. I don't know, maybe the Littleton Conservation Coordinator is too. I don't know. That's fine. I think the key thing is, will the registry record it, right? Isn't that the big thing? That,
Well, they were on that email chain that I forwarded to
and
you
that's
guys.
not even a
From
and that's
Middlesex,
interesting,
so-
not even a notarized document.
Yeah, but an order of conditions is not notarized, by the way, Peter.
That's right.
Mhm.
It used to be, a long time ago.
I know, but they it's amazing to me that they don't care.
Yeah.
But a clerk certificate never has to be notarized.
Okay, so there you go. So this is like it's a clerk certificate, but it's just
That-
Well, there you are.
no, wait, go back to that bylaw. I'm sorry. Can you just go back? I just want to look at that. I'm sorry. I just want to take a look real quick.
What was it? This?
You just had a bylaw.
Bylaw.
It's just said
No.
by, oh, it's, no, yeah, I just said the word, I saw the word bylaw. I just want to see what it said.
I think it's just part of this,
Yeah, it appears at the top of the document, and every time I see it, you scroll down.
Oh,
There you go.
Littleton Wetlands Protection Bylaw.
Okay. Okay, so that just has
we don't
nothing, to
have
do-
one. do we?
that has nothing to do with the authorization. Okay, with the signature.
No.
I have a question. Should there be some sort of written formality where it shows that Rebecca is the authorized person? Is there anything on record that shows that?
Oh, wait, no, go back to that, because that does have a duly authorized. Just go back to that. I'm sorry, just go back one more time. I just want to see what that thing says, because it seems to talk about,
Somebody else is going to be driving next time.
just don't change it. Just stay on that just for a minute. This order is valid. The order must be mailed by vote of the
Just a-
individuals authorized by, okay, I'm just looking at this, by vote on blank, the individuals listed below have authorized the coordinator to sign on their behalf pursuant to the signature authorization recorded with the Middlesex South Registry. That's what I'm getting at, the signature authorization. That's really that is what I've been driving at. That you have a recorded document saying that someone is authorized.
Right.
You
That's what I'm trying to say. Should we draw up something that shows?
That's what the other
Guys,
documents
Well,
are.
that's what the other
Teresa
document
is gonna give to us. Teresa's gonna draft it and give it to us to review for the next time.
But that document is a recorded document. That's what I'm
Correct.
getting.
Ultimately, it will be.
That's where we started at, Peter,
Okay, no,
10
that's,
minutes ago.
okay. And then we got into the clerk certificate, which are never, that I just.
Which is recorded. It's a recorded document, Peter.
You can record a clerk certificate.
Okay,
All right, we're good.
the clerk certificate doesn't authorize the clerk to make the representation. That's all I'm getting at.
The clerk
Is it that-
certificate says that the
The doc
board
we just looked
voted.
at specifically said that we are saying that anything she signs as representing that we did it can be relied upon by third parties. And that is the recorded, that's the document that I'm saying is that I would assume that we would need, so that when Rebecca signs something, there is something already recorded at the registry that says if Rebecca signs something and represents that it was done by that it's a vote of the commission. It can be
I
relied,
could not agree with you more, as if I said it myself.
which is what you did. three-
Like it was included in that email. or something.
Exactly. Right, it was a part of the email. But Peter, again, a good thing you and I are not billing for our time right now.
I
Well,
am.
We just- we just have to get
that's
rid
what
of the
they
bill.
say. You know, is you get one lawyer, you get two lawyers, then things, you know.
Right, we're good.
We
Okay,
can't tell lawyer jokes.
So Teresa, you'll have something for us next time that we'll review?
Yeah, no,
and-
I got it to Rebecca before then, yeah.
Okay, good. I'm gonna be away for both October meetings. I'll be on vacation from the day after our next meeting until the 22nd of October,
Wow.
Good for you.
going to Australia.
Wow.
Wow, fabulous.
If you need any
Rebecca.
tips, let me know. I've lived there for 4 years.
Did you?
hmm
Where?
Sydney,
I'll
Where
check
are
in
you
with you
going?
separately.
I was gonna say, definitely let me know and
Yeah.
where you're going, what your plans are. I'd be happy to go over some fun stuff.
Well, the first 2 weeks, I'm going to be on a boat going from Cairns to Darwin.
It's hot. Bring bug spray. And don't swim in the water.
And
Yeah.
don't get too close to a kangaroo. Bad things happen to people who get too close.
Mm,
Don't get
Are you
too
gonna-
close
importantly,
to,
there's. Oh, I
Yeah.
have a funny video I'm gonna send you. Hold on. I have to write
Paul,
it
you
down.
gonna go to
Getting
Perth? Are you
kicked.
gonna go to Perth?
no. No, I'm joining a crew of a circumnavigation for 2 weeks.
Wow.
wow.
Holy smokes. Are you going by yourself or with other? Or
My wife and I are going, she's gonna go to Tasmania when I take off on the circumnavigation crew. But
wow.
I'm only doing one short leg, relatively speaking, short leg, 2 weeks.
Hmm.
They asked me originally if I wanted to sail across the Indian Ocean to Africa, but that would have been 3 months.
Wow.
That's
That's
awesome.
great.
I'm so jealous. Good for you. That's great.
Hmm.
All right, hold on a second.
So
We're gonna
anyway,
sail across
I'll be
Punta
around on the 20th, but I'll be gone the next 2.
You lead a more exciting life than I.
No, at least for the moment. That's the advantage of being retired and only
Yeah.
doing consulting. I can disappear for a little while.
Well. All right. There is one other item on the agenda.
Okay.
Discuss collaboration with the Environmental Sustainability Committee.
Judy,
Both environmental sustainability and planning board are looking to collaborate. So if you have any ideas. And I know in February, Marchish, when the town council had their yearly meeting with the boards, there was mention that the 3 boards would collaborate. And I'm wondering if that's going to happen this year or what's up with that as well.
And what do you see our role in being with the Environmental Sustainability Committee, Judy?
Whatever tasks you'd want them to take on that the commission doesn't have time for, or would just like to branch out with them. Research they could do, anything like that. Or trying to figure out what you want to have for collaborative meeting with the planning board and ZBA, so that can happen.
So Judy, it's really 2 different questions. One is,
Yes,
right, for the 3, the zoning board of appeal, the planning commission, and and us. And then
Yes.
separately with the environmental sustainability, right?
correct, correct.
Well, I was just thinking, how would we have treated the head of the lake project differently if we were involved at the, if we met with the Board of Appeal like initially? I don't know how that would have gone differently.
Yeah, I think that tends to be, it seems somewhat problematic that it's kind of parallel review processes.
Right, no, I know.
And it shouldn't be. I don't think.
No, I know, I agree, and I'm just thinking how, but that's a prime example of how things that need both
Right,
boards' approval.
But it,
right.
it wouldn't make
Right.
sense to have a joint meeting in that case either, though. You
It
know,
could have though for certain, for limited issues,
yes, very limited issues.
because they were at odds with things like the plantings. I mean, things like that, that they see one way, they saw more aesthetically rather than the value that was needed because it was proximate to a wetland, things like that, where there could be more of an understanding what you would be looking for. Because it doesn't seem like there's much consideration for wetland issues when there are these types of projects that are before both boards. And I think that could try to be a step towards changing that.
Yeah, we'd have to look at the project and determine if there was items that we could collaborate on or should. Yeah, I don't
Even
know.
if there
That's-
were a joint meeting where you said, this is what we'll be looking at, these are the things that will be important to us. So that there's a heads up to them at the start of the process, that those were the issues, so that they're more cognizant of what other issues, because otherwise they look at it from their own perspective. And I think that needs to be broadened.
Well, yeah, not disagreeing. But their perspective is their perspective, right?
It is, but there are other areas that need to be taken into consideration. It can't just be looked at in a vacuum. Yeah, they can approve it one way and then it goes to conservation and it's looked at, no, this is too close here, or this can't be used here. Then it makes it much more difficult when something is approved by the ZBA and then comes to conservation towards the end. And it's, well, ZBA's already approved it. Now we have to go back to them. It's trying to avoid that as well.
I know a lot of their concern is aesthetics. Does it fit with the neighborhood? Does it
Right.
look too commercial?
Right.
Things
And
of
part
that
of that,
nature.
but part of that is the aesthetic of biodiversity. I mean, why can't that be part of the discussion? Why can't they look at, if you're looking at plantings, fine. Okay, well, let's get an opinion from the conservation agent, who it's her specialty to guide them in correct plantings, things like that. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And there are certainly cross-functional areas that we both are interested in.
Right.
Lighting, might be another one, right?
Right. And it's the same with planning board. I mean, they had said they didn't even consider why it was so important to have shade trees for cooling the water that's going towards the wetland. So it's things like that it's just kind of heightening the awareness of how everything should work together. And that isn't the way that it's happening now.
Yeah, I do agree that coordination is important. And we've had that happen a lot of times when people say, well, it's already gone through this, and you're like the last obstacle, and it seems like we have I don't know. I think I don't know. I think they're trying, sometimes applicants try to pressure us too.
I think probably one of the biggest common grounds that we can start to focus on, Judy and I've been talking a lot about this, is like the tree canopy, because that keeps popping up. Not only Judy mentioned in like temperature controls, but also in climate resiliency. And that's a hot topic for, I think, all boards. So maybe there's something in there that we could, Judy and I have been talking about seeing if we could figure out how to get a tree canopy estimation and perhaps then and now kind of situation. And Judy, tell them about your clock,
About my what?
your clock.
Oh, have a tool on the website that would show when trees are taken down and when they're put up. So it would be like a running tally of canopy cover.
Isn't that cool? I don't know how we do it, but it's a great idea.
Mm.
It would
But
be
there's
running,
also,
it'd be running
an
backwards,
urban-
unfortunately.
But I bet
right,
it's
but I
important.
think that's important because
Yeah.
then people could see what areas are more sparsely covered, where there might be, and then that's a tool for other boards to use. But there's also an urban forestry plan that some towns use. You can create an urban forestry master plan, and it includes vegetative cover throughout the town, regardless of what the cover is. So it gives you an overall view of how much carbon uptake, shade cover, everything. So that's something I think should be pursued, and hopefully will be part of the open space plan, having a urban forestry master plan as well.
Do they do those from aerials too?
They-
Aerial photo?
The University of Vermont has a data analysis lab, and they use LiDAR.
Okay. So they'd actually have to do a separate survey to do that.
Correct. And I reached out to the city of Cambridge because they've undertaken it, and they're getting their data back in the next couple of weeks. So they're going to send that to me so I can get a
Rough idea
better
what it
idea.
cost them?
I don't, but I know there are grants available, and some of it is under the municipal vulnerability grants. And that's where environmental sustainability has a role, and where they could
Mhm.
come in handy with that.
Yeah,
with maybe
that's true.
some grant funding.
Okay.
But I think more collaboration is definitely needed because it seems like things are at odds a lot of the time. And it's considered, not within the purview. But I think it can be within the purview if it's looked at creatively. If they're talking about vegetation, then why can't it be more than just aesthetic? Why can't there be a functional value as well?
Especially since it's important for us that there be the function of that.
Correct. So is there going to be a future collaborative board meeting? They were going to be held
Which
quarterly,
board?
that's why I'm asking.
With the
The planning
planning board?
board, the ZBA, and conservation. That was what was discussed at the town council meeting when they did all the reviews of the boards.
Well, I thought we were gonna do something with the planning board.
And the ZBA was going to be quarterly.
I thought we were waiting for them to come up with a schedule or something. I'm all for that. I think you can learn quite a bit just by being in the same room, talking about the same close issues.
But you're saying that we would have 4 meetings where we would be, what would it mean? What would that mean to have,
Well, if we're going to a meeting for just a hearing, like if the planning board had a hearing on a.
No. This is separate from an individual hearing. It was supposed to be quarterly meetings to discuss issues that may be similar amongst the boards to get better collaboration.
Well, where did that come from? That's a new topic.
That was from that you were at the meeting. It was when town council did the yearly reviews of each board.
Okay, well, I was, all I remember is we were trying to get a date scheduled with the planning board.
Okay, but that hasn't happened.
No, I know. it
Now,
hasn't.
another board is looking to collaborate. So if other people want to help, I think that should be welcomed.
would it be, are there other ways to do, for example, I'm just gonna say this, but what if, if we're talking about, for example, the planning board,
Mhm.
or the ZBA, that one of our, that we would try to resolve, that one of us would try to sit in on their, on their meetings, just listen to their meetings. So just so we kind of know what they're doing. I don't go to any of the meetings. I really don't know what they do and how they think. I don't know if would that be helpful? I mean, we
I think it
could
would
do,
be helpful. And then from there, you could
I mean,
present an argument for why there needs to be collaboration. Like I said, they do have some say in the plantings.
no, but
Things
my
like
point would-
that.
yeah. My point would be that, for example, if we were discussing a hearing, if we were in the middle of, having any of these hearings, and there was someone from the planning board who was, on the Zoom call. I don't care if they participate or not, but they're on the
Right.
Zoom. Whether that would be, that might spark an idea, that's all. Or they could report back saying, here's the conservationist saying, they're worried about this, that, and the other
Right.
thing. And they could go back and
And
report
right, and Jim has done that another.
said in the meeting. And while we're not
Right.
gonna have formal overlap, it seems to me like having like formally overlapping boards doesn't make any, because then people you don't want to be on two boards. But my point would only be that if, for example, if we're talking about the ZBA or the planning board, that we would maybe just take turns covering one of their, just logging on to their meetings and listening, see what they have to say.
Mhm.
That's fine, but I think there was I don't know what the point was of it being proposed to have collaborative meetings. It was,
Well, I think the
Because-
general concept
Because
is
we do need a way.
more collaboration, which is right now, we don't know what they're doing. We don't go to their meetings. They
Right.
don't go. So
Right.
there's zero,
but that's
there's
right.
zero. And so my point is only that the general concept of somehow having more collaboration or communication. The starting point is, and that's all I'm saying is, rather than getting into specifics, was just sort of what are general ways that we could do it,
No, I think that's a good idea to log on to the meetings, but I think there could also be a meeting of the three chairs to say, how can we collaborate on things and throw out ideas generally? It's a smaller group and they could brainstorm amongst the three of them. I think that was what the plan was.
Mhm.
And I was just wondering what happened to that.
Do all the other boards have an agent, Rebecca, someone equivalent to you?
No, we're really set up differently.
Okay.
Planning
fair enough.
board has Erin.
Yeah. But I feel like it's still a different setup
It is.
Sure.
Oh, it definitely is.
because she kind of does her. She kind
It's
of
different
runs
than
her
what
own.
Paul used to do.
Say again.
It's different than when Paul was there, Paul Rivers.
Oh, right, yeah. Yes, it is, right. That would have been, you're right, a town planner would have been the most similar.
Yes,
They have a lot more hours.
but I think the three chairs could talk and say, these are some of the things we come across, being at odds on different projects, and try to figure out how to talk more, in generalities. Well, how do we figure that out? Do we talk, do you come to a couple of the meetings? I don't know.
That too, you know what else is really good, Judy, when you talk about stuff like that, is just tapping into other folks' knowledge as well. And
Right.
on different kind of issues, and also we might want to see more green infrastructure, but we can't require it, right? And perhaps maybe they can, but they're just not used to doing that or haven't had the conversation about it. So I don't know,
Right.
you're right. Maybe there's other
Right.
things.
And
that-
another example is the planning board is updating their subdivision rules and regulations. And there are a lot of different things that could be added that would be in sync with what conservation looks at. The tree choices, the canopy, if they don't plant street trees on both sides, maybe they have to have a separate planted area. In the subdivision rules and regs, it says something like, if possible, there needs to be an open space area, like a communal area for everyone in that subdivision to use. So maybe that's something that they need to look at more. Every subdivision should have an area, even if it's a planted area, a rain garden, something. I mean, there are different ways that both boards' goals can be accomplished. But, and that's where I think the meetings like this are helpful.
I think they are too, but don't they have some kind of limits themselves on what they can?
No, when you look at other towns' rules and regs, they're so creative when it comes to climate resilience, sustainability.
Mhm.
And I mean, if they're reviewing them now is the time to try to be collaborative with them,
Yeah,
to try to have similar goals.
Yeah.
well, I mean, Peter's idea is good as far as, listening in on meetings. I mean,
Right,
to
and
me,
that's
that would
fine,
be a
but
great way to
that doesn't take the place of having a meeting. You
With-
can
with the
listen
whole
to a
board.
meeting.
With the whole board?
With just the chairman, to talk about what I've just said. How can we align some of the goals that we have? So that we can, for the better of the entire town, focus on how can we have more sustainable areas, resilience, things like that. And the example that Rebecca said, having sustainable,
Thanks very much. Well, the Australian Tourist Commission is up.
How's that?
That's for Paul.
Oh, are you starting your thing going?
I was on mute, so it wasn't me.
It was me trying to find something that Rebecca sent.
Haley wants to say something. Haley has her
Rebecca's
hand up.
saying she wants to get away after listening to this conversation.
Fair enough.
Haley
enough.
wants to say something. Haley had her
Okay.
hand
Oh,
up.
I was just going to build off of what Rebecca was saying about infrastructure and stuff and being able to push that way. That ties in highly to, there was a daily item article about the whole thing about the zoning of multifamily housing near MBTA stops. That all kind of ties in together with making sure there's more accessible housing like that has that open space requirement and has a say in like what's coming down and what's going up, and that all kind of every aspect of that ties back into climate justice issues.
Mhm. That's true. That's a good point.
So why is there a hesitance to schedule a meeting like this? I don't understand that.
What do you mean? I'll go to a meeting.
I'm not hesitant. The only reason I was suggesting, I guess I'm not saying that we can't do both of those things.
Right.
My
agree
my
with
only
that.
comment was that sometimes having general talks about how can we help, what can we do, that maybe we would see more real progress, or we see the benefit of collaboration if we could listen to concrete hear the concrete issues that they're dealing with, that other boards are dealing with, and maybe be able to actually offer concrete suggestions or to have others sit in on our meetings and offer a
Okay.
concrete.
That's a good idea. All the meetings are on Zoom, so you can log
Yeah.
on to any of the meetings they've had and look at them,
Well,
and then
go ahead. I'm
suggest a
sorry.
meeting.
I happened to listen to one meeting, and I know Judy listens to quite a few of them, but I did learn a lot from the Board of Appeals. And I did notice that they were trying to, stay in tune with us as much as they could, it seemed. So I think there's a lot to be said for listening in and bringing that information back, and also just like Judy's saying, have a meeting with the chairs or a representative of the boards. I think that brings valuable information. But I learned a lot from that one time I went, and I can see the benefit in that.
And I candidly I think I'd like to hear some of the, maybe I'm sure I would learn a lot if I heard about
Yeah.
what they're doing.
Wow.
So you don't have any ideas for environmental sustainability collaboration? Any ways you want them to collaborate?
Can I ask whether there's something that's sort of like a best practices that, for towns to Because when you guys say, I'm not the most original soul in the world, but I do care about what the other guy's doing. And if we think if some of the other towns are ahead of us and they have sort of a strategy, that it certainly would be interesting to hear that.
They're way ahead of us.
Okay.
Well, like
So it shouldn't be that
Linfield.
hard to,
Well, Linfield has a tree committee. They have a pesticide awareness committee, things like that.
Yeah.
Make
Do
a
you know
big
what I saw
difference.
today too? I'm sorry, do not interrupt, but some towns have permanent like open space committees that
Yes,
their role is not only to manage their conservation properties, but also to always be looking for new opportunities to protect land, and also to not only education and outreach, but to like work with homeowners. And that's literally like a full-time committee. Permanent. It's a permanent committee that is always working on that. So I do think there's a lot of things going on. I think we're lucky because it seems to me like everyone's really interested in talking about this right now in multiple boards. And it feels like we just need to get some direction and coordination, and everything will just hopefully line up and everything will jump on the train. The unfortunate part is I don't think Erin, the director there, I'm not sure when she'll be back in the town hall. Maybe she would have been the best person, but I do think there's a little bit of interest, and hopefully if we can capitalize on that, maybe we can get some momentum somewhere.
Well, do you think that the size of the town has a lot to do with the way these things are written?
no,
Okay,
no.
okay.
No, because you get like the city of Cambridge and you wouldn't believe some of the stuff that they could do. That they,
Well,
like that urban forestry document.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
It just-
Linfield's smaller than us by population, a lot smaller,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That'll happen here now.
Would it make sense to do a joint meeting around a particular matter that's appearing before us and another, either the planning board or ZBA, rather than trying to have sort of a generic discussion? Because I think otherwise we'll end up doing something like this.
I think that's fine, but it could be another 6 months, 8 months before there's a joint topic. And I think if there's kind of a consensus on, whether it's something climate driven, sustainability in itself, that covers so many areas that all the boards can address. And then each board could say, well, this is what we're looking at. And then everyone has everyone else's perspective. I think that's what's helpful.
Does the sustainability committee have an agenda and a mission, or a mission and an agenda that it's pursuing that would make
Yes.
sense to be discussing with them in terms of how it might affect what we're up to?
I think there are a lot of similar overlapping areas with them. And they're just a committee, like an advisory committee.
They have no
But they-
specific authorities.
Correct. But they have a lot of membership. They pursue grants. They were involved in the municipal vulnerability plan. So they've got a lot of momentum. And some
They're-
background.
And it's the right time too.
Right, I think so.
Yeah.
For something like the Vogue project. They've already gone up and down about sustainable building products. So,
Excuse me.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Sustainable landscape should be in the conversation as well.
or how sustainable is it to remove all of that forested area? Isn't that somewhat contrary to, like the documents that they produce that were to look to the planning for the future?
Right.
I was always thinking when you were talking about that, Judy, I was thinking about like, you could almost sit down with the different boards and look at like that resilient framework and say, what are your rules and regulations that contribute to achieving these goals? And you know what I
Yes.
mean? And that's where we would all kind of come in together. So if your goal is this just for example, climate resiliency, how does planning board ensure that they meet that goal? How do we ensure that we meet that goal? How does ZBA? And maybe that's a way to have a conversation. I'm not sure, just a thought.
No, I think that's a good idea.
So maybe that's how everyone can sit around the table and look at that and say, what part of your regulations ensure that when you have something in front of you, that you're going to meet the goals identified by this document that was whatever group put that together. And then you would have some, that conversation about tree removal or impervious surfaces or whatever. And then everyone would be contributing on that kind of topic. So everyone would put in about their impervious surfaces, what kind of thing they require. And then maybe if everyone's goal is, to minimize impervious surfaces, everyone picks the piece that they regulate on that topic and has in their rules and regulations what they can address, but yet the goal is one overarching goal. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like each board would contribute to their piece that they can control over the overarching goal of minimizing impervious surfaces, let's say.
Yes, that makes perfect sense.
So maybe that's how we can have a joint meeting, as opposed to a project, because we don't know when one will come.
Yeah, I guess I think we need, if we're going to have a joint meeting, it needs to be focused around a particular agenda item, or it's going to get pretty muddy and fuzzy and not be particularly productive, and we'll never have another one.
Right, but I think what Rebecca just outlined, that structure is already built into the town, that vulnerability assessment. So I think that would be a good starting point. That could be the core of things.
I have to admit, I know nothing about that. So.
Because conservation wasn't invited to be a part of that. I found that a little peculiar. No, I looked at that document and it had like every other board in there and I was kind of like, really?
Interesting.
We'll see.
And this is a climate vulnerability.
Yeah.
That's pretty ridiculous.
Which talks a lot about drought and flooding.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe you guys would be relevant in that discussion.
Seems like we might be.
Seems like you might be. But I don't know. I don't know.
That's why I think having more discussions with the other boards would help get into the conversation.
So let me ask you something. All the stuff that you're talking about, is this something that gets implemented in the town like a requirement, like, like say the building inspector would have, he has set things that he can do. Are these just recommendations that you think are beneficial to the town? Or how do you enforce something like that?
I think there were recommendations and they got grants for it. It's on the environmental sustainability website. There's a link. It was something that Claire Moss was involved with.
Okay, but what I'm trying to figure out is, are these suggestions that they real in the end, are they just a suggestion? Or is this like a rule at the town?
No, it's not a rule. It's not a rule.
These are all
It's creating a
suggestions on how to
framework, right? A framework for what they want to do, right?
So it's kind of like,
I mean, not everyone's going to like all these ideas.
no, but it's kind of like their goal. They know that with climate change, you're going to have increased flooding, right? So here's your problem. You have increased flooding and they say, okay, well, how are we going to tackle that in the future? Here's some ideas of how we can tackle that in the future.
Right.
So it's kind of like, so they have that framework and the framework should be used like when you have a project or when you're discussing plans, for instance, open space plan, you would look at that framework and say, okay, the town has identified that they want to address certain topics. Environmental justice, for instance, is one of them. And I think that framework has like, when you're reviewing a project, does it does it go against what they're hoping for environmental justice? Is it neutral, or is this in a positive direction? So I think their idea was that you would take something that's in front of you, review it against their framework to see if you are actually having something that's contributing in a positive direction, but it's just really a tool. But if you take that framework that was already approved by the town and there's already public input, and you say, and if we're talking environmental justice, they've already identified that they're looking to increase availability, for instance, of green spaces in certain areas. If that's a goal that they're trying to achieve, then in the open space plan, we would say, in accordance with that goal that we're trying to achieve, we've identified a few areas where we can increase green space for environmental justice. Do you know what I mean? It just gives you a way to sort of emphasize that this thing that you're proposing is meeting the plan that they've already outlined, but there is no rule. You don't have to.
Right, it's similar to the open space plan. It's a
it
guideline
is
based
too.
on what the town wants.
Well,
So
the
why not
open
use it
space
rather
plan-
than put it
The
on the
open
shelf?
space plan though is looking at a lot of statistics to come up with these solutions. I don't see, I think you're weak in any kind of statistical,
No,
verification of
as
what
it,
you're-
when it comes to climate change, no, I disagree.
Okay, well,
They're not just pulling this out of the ear.
what?
They're not just pulling this out of the ear.
Oh,
There is science to back
okay.
it up.
Well, I mean, there's a lot, for instance, in the tree canopy, I mean, maybe you're gonna take aerial photography and use density of, what you're seeing, looking at to determine what's the optimal amount of trees. I mean, it's not, I don't know how,
And it tells you how much carbon uptake you have, how it's going to help you in severe storms.
no, I know, but.
And
I
where
mean,
areas that could be
but-
replanted to
But you don't tell
encourage
someone,
people.
but you don't want to be telling someone to put 10 trees in his house. If
It's
only
not
put
telling
4.
people, it's heightening the awareness of here are the deficiencies. Would you like to have some green areas in your yard that would help with climate sustainability, carbon
Okay,
uptake?
I get that, but I'm just saying that I would not want to see this. I mean, if you're going on to people's property to implement some of this stuff,
It's
I have a
not,
little bit
that
of-
is not at all what is being said. It's an
You're
aerial
recommending,
survey.
you're recommending.
No,
someone to do
no,
something.
no. Well, you're not recommending what any individual is going to do. You're saying, here are some sparsely vegetated areas.
Yeah.
Here, I don't know, some town-owned lots where we could plant on, things
Okay,
like
well,
that.
now-
Or encourage people, homeowners, to not
Okay,
have sweeping
well, that's
lawns and
exactly what
have
a
vegetated
recommendation
areas.
is.
What?
You're describing your recommendation.
Right. Well, it's a recommendation. What's wrong with the recommendation?
No, I get it
What we're
now.
doing now isn't working.
I get what you're doing now. I understand what you're doing. I just. Okay,
I don't know why there's such a hesitance.
what?
Well, I still don't understand what this would look like. I'm having a hard time understanding what it would look like.
The aerial,
No, the collaboration with whoever.
okay. So say we're talking about, like Rebecca said, climate change and renewable, maybe pervious pavers instead of pavement, ZBA could look at. Or
Yeah.
planning board can be more cognizant of when there's a subdivision adjacent to a wetland. They may need more street trees on that side, or, it's things like that. You have some similarities
Right, but
amongst.
how does that manifest itself? Do we give them a list of things that we're interested in or things that we would like to see, or like, how does it manifest itself?
Why can't you?
Sorry, go ahead, Judy.
I don't know why you couldn't give them an idea of, this is what we'd like to see.
We could do a
Here are
list
some
and say, hey,
suggestions. How can we get to them together?
you know, when you're looking at lighting, we like to see this. When you're looking at this, we'd like to see that. You know, we could give them the list of the interests of the act, you know, we could.
Okay, well, the Lake Quantipower project is an example. When they looked at the plantings for the rain gardens, some of the comments were they didn't like them because they didn't like the way they looked. They didn't know that they had a functional value, and that's why those were chosen. They wanted something that was flowering. That's completely reasonable. So if they don't know the background of why you have to have certain plants in a wet area, then they may be saying, hey, go ahead and plant this, this, or this. It's never going to last. That's what I'm saying. I mean, that's a simplified, but that's an area where overlap can help because they're looking at it from a certain perspective.
Right, I get that and I agree with that, but how does that work? Do we get invited when the landscape plan is going to be talked about, or like, how does this all tie together from that standpoint?
It can be simplified to, instead of strictly ornamental plants, have some that are native perennials, basic things like that. That could be a starting point.
But again, do we join their meeting when landscaping is coming up, or do we send them a list of things to be thinking about during a project?
That's what, right. That's what I think the collaborative meeting could be. These are things, issues that we'd like to you to think about. Habitat value when you're looking at plantings, not just how it frames the building.
So
What
this would
else
be
does it do other than frame the building and provide a screen?
All right,
What
so
other
this may-
value does it provide?
So you're suggesting a separate meeting where we just talk about things we're concerned about with them. So when they have their public hearings, those things are on their mind.
Correct.
You know, another thing that we could think of is we've had a few projects that have come along where there's been a subdivision, and the road itself, the road width plus the required sidewalks on both sides, plus the street tree, whatever, results in either a direct wetland impact or at a minimum, or an encroachment into the 25 no disturb zone, right? So the applicant, you know, we look at that and we say, well, we need you to move out of the 25 no disturb. And they say, well, we can't because it's subdivision rules and regs say that we have to do this. So we could talk to like the planning board and say, when this comes along, how much flexibility do you have? What is the right mechanism for us to contact you? Either you see it on your own. We don't necessarily always want to go through the applicant because we might not always get all the information. But, you know, we see the road width, the sidewalks, and then this, and that results in our no disturb zone. How flexible are you on that with that situation? If there is flexibility, what do you need to hear from us in order to get that?
And we had that situation on that project that was withdrawn.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking of.
Right.
Yes, that's
Which one? Teresa, which one?
Stark
Oh,
Ave.
Stark Ave. Yeah.
But that's what happened because
But
they.
that was, we had the planning board there with us.
Yes.
And
This is the first time.
So that was a
And-
collaborative meeting. We had
And
one.
that was the biggest help.
And do you see what happened? They withdrew.
But before that,
And also
didn't
the
know
fact
that.
that
But before-
it was a concrete project with, we could stand there right next to them, both looking at a specific situation and talk about what we were worried about. I just think I just want to underscore what I think Paul's right, that we need, that the more we can get our involvement centers around something concrete rather than talking in a bunch of, generalities. I think that,
I
and my point would
disagree.
only be that after we show that we have success discussing concrete things, then from that we can maybe develop some processes that.
And how are you going to know these projects? They could be, that Stark Ave is an example, that was going on. And then it was I don't know, I saw something online in the paper, something, and then that's when Concom jumped in. If you're not asked for comments, how are you going to know when the project? And part of that was they wanted to do the low impact development, which the planning board was all for, until Concom got involved and discussed why it wasn't going to work in that situation. So I think there are things like that that seem great on paper, but aren't going to work in certain situations. And that's where I still think a I think waiting for a meeting when there's an overlapping topic, that could be 8 months, a year from now.
But
And
Judy,
by then it'll be forgotten.
but I think we need, if it's not project specific, so I agree that those work the best, then we have to have a list of things that we, for each, a list of things that we come up with, that we want to go over with them, with the particular boards that we think is important for them to know about. So that
That's
we
what I
have,
said.
right, we
Give
have
them a
something
list.
concrete, but
Right.
we know what those are, and,
Yes.
before, this is like a mixture of what Peter and Paul were saying. We know what those are before we go into that meeting. So it's not just
Right.
a
Yes.
meeting, so we have,
Yeah.
and we have, that requires us to do work to figure out what those things are.
Right. I agree.
But if someone were listening in, for example, or just, if that happened to be the meeting that, Jim, that you had tuned into, the planning board meeting about Stark Avenue, you could have come back and said, oh, they're talking about Stark Avenue, which is something that's been hot on our thing for a decade,
Mhm.
that just sometimes just showing up at these things is gonna generate spark
But
ideas.
Peter, if I could just say, that's a lot of time, and.
Well,
I mean,
I'm not saying that it's not like we're not gonna have one person do it, but maybe we all resolve and take, once every 2 months, you listen in on a planning board meeting or something. I don't know. And do they meet every week or do they meet every 2 weeks? Like
Every
do they
other
meet
week.
Twice a month.
twice
Yeah.
a month? Same as us. Okay.
Yep, and the Board of Appeals does the same, so.
Okay. So you're right.
Too is, if you want to be project specific, but yet where you don't want to wait so long until there's that perfect project that everyone's on, perhaps you can do both, which is be project specific, although it's not a current project. So for instance, when we were discussing Stark Ave, you could say, here's a situation that we were in. How do you guys look at it? How can we handle it? What's the best way to work together? Give you a second example. Here's another project that we looked at. They told us that they had a certain requirement of parking spaces. The number of parking spaces that
Right.
they're required has resulted in them pushing towards encroaching so much further into our
Right.
resource area.
Right.
What do we do in this situation? And perhaps instead of one project that meets everything, we could like piece together different situations that we've already had.
Right, yeah.
But we want to stop
Yeah.
this in the future. Could we collaborate on how to
Right.
make that
And-
work?
Those
And
those
we-
are
and we-
definitely good examples, Rebecca, of conversations we should be having.
Okay,
because
so maybe that's what we have to
But
do.
you know what's
I
even
mean-
better? You know what's even
Sorry?
better, Rebecca, is when, again, I'm going back to the Board of Appeals meeting that I went to. They spoke very highly of the way you helped them with, staying 15 feet away from the wetland or 25 feet or wherever it was. So they already know some things. They've learned some things already. I actually think that they've learned quite a bit because they were talking about things that affect conservation and they were trying to be aware of it and respectful of it. So I almost think that it might be worth it to have Rebecca to just go to a couple of these meetings and just relay some information to them because it works.
I think Rebecca would do a great job at that, but I still think it should be the 3 chairmen. And it could be a scenario like Rebecca said. I still don't know why there's such pushback about this.
Yeah. And can I
Well,
suggest,
because-
can I suggest something else too? Why don't we, would it be wise just for us to maybe circulate the agendas for those meetings? So we can see, whether there's something that we think,
The agenda is posted, all the agendas are online.
I understand.
on the town
No, no,
website.
no. You made a specific agenda for our joint meeting, Peter.
No, I'm talking about just, for example, if I knew what was going on at the next,
Oh.
we both knew if we had in front of us right now, the agendas for the next upcoming Board of Appeals meeting and planning board meeting, then would that, is that something we might say, hey, you know what? There's an item that we really, that is going to be of obvious interest to us. Why don't we take it upon ourselves to try to at least
Be proactive.
Yeah. Well, no, but I mean, but no, it's the point that I was saying is before, and you guys said something that, why don't we just take turns covering the meetings, where we don't know what, when rather than maybe be a little more targeted, let's cover the portions of meetings that we think have relevant, have interesting things in them. That's all I was getting. I was just trying to refine be responsive to your comment that I was suggesting something that was maybe more time consuming than we wanted to have.
You know, it's amazing. I don't get any of those agendas. I don't get a planning board agenda and I don't get a ZBA agenda, yet I give them out. So they
And you
get
know
ours.
what's funny?
Why have
That's
I not
listed
known
in
of
their
it?
rules and regs that everything is copied to Concom.
So
And I
could
brought
never
that up
had one.
and it does
I've
not
never
we
happen.
at least get that? Because my point would be that maybe there's some things that if we actually looked at the agendas before the meetings,
Right.
we
But the
we
agendas
we
are
would
on
be
the
of us,
town
we would be of a
website.
mind that this is something we could maybe have, that our input might be helpful.
You know
The thing
something,
is that-
Peter, any one of us could just watch one of the meetings, you know, I mean,
I understand that. I'm just, all I'm saying is that.
we all
that-
can't just sit here and,
And then you can fast forward through it. That's the nice thing about watching the recorded meetings. You don't have to sit through it for 4 hours.
Do you think someone's fast forwarding this spot right now and they watch it?
Well, the thing about fast forwarding is. that
No one
you
is
lose the
watching it.
real time. You lose the real time. If something comes up during the course of the conversation. where you
Right,
can
but
say,
the agendas are on the town website. I mean, all you do is click on the
And I've
town
never,
website.
I guess what I'm saying is I've never thought to look at those agendas, and that's, I'm just making a comment about my
Okay,
inadequacy.
so look
right?
at the agendas and it tells you what week, when they meet,
That's
and you
right.
can see what's on there that you might be
Yeah,
interested
there's
in.
really nothing for
There's-
September. I'm looking
Maybe
right
there's a
now.
way to get on like an agenda distribution list of which I'm not on, because I do that. I have an agenda distribution list. So, because I'm, regardless of
Yeah,
it being
That would
posted
be
online,
nice.
I'm
That would
required
be
to
really
send it.
nice. That would be super nice to get that, to be on an
Yeah,
agenda.
I'm gonna try that.
Well, you do get all the filings for the ZBA. That is
Yes.
one thing. Yeah.
Yeah, the one that I just looked at ZBA that seems to me it'll come back and bite us is the one at the Knights of Columbus, next to the Knights of Columbus.
yeah.
Five
That will
minutes
definitely come
right
back to
there.
us. Yeah,
Sorry?
that will definitely come back to us.
Yeah, I mean, basically it's a swamp.
They came to us before.
Right, there's
Right.
been other projects presented there.
Yeah,
All right.
I don't want to get too much into this, but as a quick note on the North Ave, the stream that goes under North Ave, we had
yeah.
that was Tim from engineering just did a calculation on that watershed size when you include the drainage connections, and it puts it at over half a square mile. So that would mean
0.52.
there's information other than what StreamStat says, because StreamStats doesn't have all the drainage information. And this is, we've talked about this a fair amount, which would suggest that stream very well may be perennial.
Right.
Awesome
All right.
information. Tim did such a good job. I asked him if he could do it all the time, but he's too busy. So if we need to,
Mhm.
he said, you know, maybe we can get back to that, but
So Rebecca, can you see if you can either get just yourself or all of the commissioners on, I know you said 2 different distributions. One is to just you got, the staff, and the other is to everyone. And
Mhm.
because I would totally trust that if you saw some things that you would be able to look at that and in a second, see something that, identify something as something that would likely be interesting to us. And then, and that's
Yeah.
easy.
I
That's
would
not-
like to do that. I don't know why. I've never thought of that. Probably because it's, I don't try
But
to
that's something
add
that
too much
doesn't
more
take a
things,
lot
but
of
that-
time. And maybe
Yeah,
we'll
exactly.
Start out, I guess what I'm saying is let's start out with some small things and then we'll see
Yep.
where it goes.
I wrote that down. I think that's a good idea.
So you're not gonna have the meeting? Is that the bottom line? I'm not gonna drop it because it was, well, if the town council is the one that talked about it and it was at that meeting, I think.
I think it's a good idea.
Just drop it.
Which one, so what are we talking about now?
The collaborative meeting,
Okay, I will do a collaborative
you,
meeting.
ZBA and planning board. You can talk
Okay.
about the open space plan. How do they all feel about that? That can be a starting point. How about that?
Perfect.
Volunteer. Okay,
Rusty, you muted.
But what are you gonna say about it, except that, yes, I'm all for open space. I mean,
I'm
You
gonna
have
say, listen, Judy set me up here, watch
my
out.
God.
right, that's right. So you have to have some points to talk about, just more than just, let's talk about open space.
Yeah, and
I
especially if
don't
we're
know
the
how
one-
you would have 1,000 points to
Especially if
talk
we're the
about.
ones pushing, for the meeting.
Right,
I
we
think
better
we're
have a
gonna
good
have-
agenda.
Right, I don't know how you would have a hard time coming up with talking points when it comes to open space. I have given you volumes of talking points. Talk about trees. How about start there? The value of trees and how there aren't enough of them. Why flooding is a concern, how they can help with flooding. How green infrastructure helps. Can ZBA look at that? Can planning board look at that?
All right. What time is
It's 9:26.
Time for the motion.
it?
And we can also do a joint site walk again next time a project comes up.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah, a project of mutual interest. That's exactly right. Standing in the woods with those guys. I think we swapped some good points.
There's probably more value in that, seeing it and being in person than just about anything else.
Mhm.
But that could be 8 months from now.
Could
That's
be.
what I'm saying.
I totally understand. These are not mutually exclusive. I think we can do these things concurrently. So I think we agreed that one, we're going to try to at least be aware of what's on their agendas. So we have a chance to cherry pick things that we think are likely to be more, likely to be of interest, and then figure out what we want to do about it. Two is that, Jim, you're going to maybe see about, organizing that meeting, and then Judy will tell you what to say.
Judy will send you a PowerPoint.
I think what's happening though is the projects that we're going to be seeing are going to be more and more aggressive, and we have to really take some solid
I
stands.
totally agree.
Which is another
But I think-
reason to be
but I think
talking
that
to,
At least telling them that,
Yeah.
well, I
Because-
tell you, they know before the meeting, even if we say something like, you know what, we saw that that's on the agenda. I can tell you that's going to be, that is likely going to be highly interesting to us. Even just them knowing that before the
Yeah.
meeting is probably a valuable piece of information to them.
yes.
Right. But we got to be willing to stand up against some of this stuff.
All right, so we're starting out with almost zero communication, so it's not going to be that hard to go from 0 to some positive number, and then see the
Yeah.
benefit of that will spur us on to maybe doing even more.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Is there anything else?
No, hope not.
All right.
I'm ready, Bob. I'm ready.
Somebody like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second,
Oh, Therese, I knew you'd do it second. You
Any
beat me to it.
discussion? All right, all in favor, Jimmy,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Savannah,
Yes.
Teresa,
yes.
and I also vote yes. All right, good night, everybody.
Wait,
Good
you have
night,
to play
everyone.
that video for Paul.
What?
Oh, you wanted to play that?
Yeah, play that.
What?
All
Paul, I have a video for you to watch.
right, hang on.
Okay.
It's very important.
Okay.
Yeah, hang on.
Why are you laughing? Sorry.
Asked us to come up with a song that we could perform overseas, a song to help bring the tourists back to Australia. That's right, so we focused on the wonderful wildlife and the fabulous fauna that Australia has to offer. Redback, funnel web, blue ringed octopus, taipan, tiger snake, adderbox, jellyfish, stonefish, and the poison thing that lives in a shell that spikes you when you pick it up. Come to Australia, you might accidentally get killed. Stay under threat. You've been bitten yet. You've only got 3 minutes left before a massive coronary breakdown. Redback, funnel web, blue ringed octopus, taipan, tiger snake, adderbox, jellyfish, big shark, just waiting for you to go swimming at Bondi Beach. Come on, come to Australia, you might accidentally get killed. Your blood is bound to be spilled. With fear, your pants will be filled. Accidentally get killed.
All right, so be careful.
Yes, yes. I've been reading Bill Bryson's book, A Sunburned Country.
Okay,
Yeah, and it's all, you know, the box jellyfish, the blue ringed octopus, the snakes.
they're all there.
spiders. Yeah,
Don't touch
Everything.
more
anything.
things in Australia that can kill you than just about any place else on the planet.
Yep, it's all there, everything.
Yeah.
So I said, don't go swimming.
Hot diggity
No.
dog.
Mhm.
Well, I'm gonna be right behind the Great Barrier Reef, so I've got to figure that all out too.
Yeah, I text or email me or whatever.
I'll drop you a note, email you
perfect.
separately tomorrow.
Yeah,
Check your
Alright.
sleeping bag
Thanks.
before you get in it, Paul.
What?
Open the sleeping bag all the way up and check it out before you crawl in.
Yeah, I
and don't
won't-
leave your
I'm-
shoes
I'm-
outside and put them on.
Yeah,
Yeah, don't.
All right.
All right,
definitely.
sorry.
Okay,
Good night,
good night,
everybody.
all.
Good night.
Thanks.
Great trip, Paul.
See you later.
I'll see y'all next time.